Shang Chi gets the big screen treatment for the first time ever. Is it the way of the fist or the way of the flop? Find out when Johnnie Torch reviews Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This is honestly the type of movie I have the hardest time reviewing because it was eh, pretty good, and that's just it. What do you say for pretty good? If you love a movie, it's worth raving about. If you hate it, it's fun tearing at a new one. But no one wants to hear about eh, pretty good. Shang-Chi was created in the 70s by Marvel as sort of a response to the kung fu craze brought on primarily by the likes of the TV series of the same name and the legendary Bruce Lee. Honestly, I have very few memories of reading the character in the 80s when I was a kid, mostly teaming up with Spider-Man in the pages of Marvel Team Up and so on. So this is one of the characters I'm not entirely familiar with. So my purist detector is getting a rest on this one. This film is not entirely what I expected. I was sort of expecting a Jackie Chan-ish, outlandish MCU film chock full of jokes and the usual. And while there is some of that, primarily in the first act, I found the film surprisingly dark. At its core, it's about a kid who watches his mom get killed by a gang, gets abused when his dad has him trained as a kung fu warrior, runs away from home as a teen after killing the guy responsible for killing his mother, and ultimately resolving to kill his father. Not exactly a plot line that affords a laugh a minute. After 13 years, the MCU comes full circle to give us the story of the titular Ten Rings, a concept that made its debut in Iron Man. And while they tie up some loose ends from Iron Man 3, they sort of brush aside any connections to the Iron Man films. Perhaps the thing I find most disappointing is that he's never really called the Mandarin, deflecting the title as if it were a bad joke. Of course, in the comics, Shang's dad was really Fu Manchu, but that name fell victim to the times. Making him the Mandarin was probably a good idea in order to resolve the series of doing that character dirty in Iron Man 3. But it still smacks of political correctness that ultimately the Mandarin can't be the villain of a rich white guy because he's Asian. Ben Kingsley's Trevor Slattery makes a welcome return to sort of give his character a happy resolution. Say what you will about the shortcomings of Iron Man 3, but Kingsley was a hoot in that film, and he's a hoot in this one as well. Part of the problem with the film is how, apart from the bus scene and much of the third act, Shang-Chi doesn't really feel like the most interesting person in the room at any given time. When he's with his Joan Rivers-esque strangely platonic pal Katie, whose comedy is sort of hit and miss, or his butt-kicking sister who built a cage fighting arena at age 16, seriously, I want to hear more about her. His 1,000-year-old warlord dad, or his auntie who's the chief muckety-muck in his mum's Shangri-La type village. And I don't really think the actor is to blame. He's doing the best he can with what he has to work with as written. The martial arts in several of the film's action scenes are quite good, and I thought the CGI dragon versus dragon fight was done very well. The Ten Rings, of course, were changed to be armbands. Given the changes made at this point to the Mandarin, it seemed fairly inconsequential. In the end, it feels like the film is trying too hard to be everything to everybody. A Godfather-esque family drama, a martial arts actioneer, a typical MCU romp, to really make a strong impression in any one area. I don't want to sound as if I didn't enjoy the picture, but I think my expectations were such that, as of this video, having only seen it once, I wasn't prepared for what it was actually going to be. The trailers are very misleading in that respect. I'd like to see it again with fresh eyes, and maybe my opinion will change. I went in really wanting to love it, but found myself finding it, pretty good. I'm giving Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings 4 stars out of 5, or a B minus. Until next we meet, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.